Okay, now let's look at factory method, and let's try to understand the basic differences between a simple factory and factory method. If you can recollect a simple factory, what we did was we have n number of concrete customer classes, namely discount customer, impulse customer, loyal customer, wandering customer. What we did was, in order to introduce a simple factory pattern, we defined an interface called iCustomer, and then we ensured that each of these concrete classes are implementing iCustomer interface, and then we ended up creating a new factory class called customer factory class, and we have given the responsibility of creating the creation of any object which is implementing the interface iCustomer to customer factory class, and thereby the client can just make a call to the create instance method of a customer factory by passing the customer type, and it can get reference to an object of type iCustomer. Okay, so that's about the simple factory pattern. And when we go one step ahead, then we have to understand factory method. So in simple factory, we have defined an interface which is common to all the concrete classes. But here in factory method, what happens is, in addition to that, we will also end up defining an interface from we define an interface for factories, in the sense, so if you take the customer factory, we refactor the customer factory class in such a way that we extract an interface from it. So which means, if you ever feel the need for having multiple factories, then simple factory would not be enough. There might be instances where we might need more than one factory. For example, if you take the example of cars, so maybe you have different cars, BMW car, Maruti car, or Hero Honda City car. There are different cars. iCar is an interface, and each of these cars implement iCar interface, like BMW or Honda City or Maruti Suzuki. Okay, these cars would implement iCar interface, and then we create a car factory. Okay, and then car factory will have a method called create instance, and it would from client, if you write code like iCar car equals to car factory dot create instance, and if you give the type of the car, then it would create. That is what a simple factory is. What if you want, in Honda City there are many variants. There are you have the economy class, you have the maybe executive class, and like VLI, LXI, LXI, VXI. There are many variants in it, like sports car, economy car. So what happens is, now previously when we are having a simple factory, with the help of car factory itself, we could able to make all cars. Okay, but what if so if you take Honda City car, again maybe you can have a base class called Honda City, and again you may have a Honda City Sports, Honda City CRV, Honda City maybe economy. There are many variants. In such case, what happens is, we might end up looking at having multiple factory methods. So one factory method, if you create a Honda City factory, Honda City car factory, it is specialized in creating different types of Honda City cars, different variants of Honda City cars. And if you create like Maruti car factory, that is specialized in making different versions of cars, like Swift or Alto or 800. So therefore, there will be some instances where we might not able to accomplish what we would like to do with the help of a single factory. So in such case, what we are doing is, in addition to binding all the concrete classes with respect to an interface, we are also binding all the factories with respect to an interface defined for that factory. Okay, so the major point here is that we add an interface to the simple factory itself, and in our case we are going to refactor the customer factory class to have an interface called iFactory, and later we can defer the object creation to one or many factories implementing iFactory interface. Earlier we have only one factory to create all types of customers, but now we can have one factory for each customer, who can be used to add special attributes or create subtypes. For example, in our case now what is happening is we will no longer have customer factory, but we will be going to have the discount customer factory. We are going to have loyal customer factory. Okay, so let's look at the definition of factory method given by Ganga 4 in their famous design pattern book, which says that define an interface for creating an object, but let the subclasses decide which class to instantiate. Factory method lets a class defer instantiation to its subclasses. So if you look at this diagram, I'm sure you are familiar with discount customer. You looked at discount customer. Okay, so let me discount customer, impulse customer. Both of them are implementing iCustomer interface. We no longer have customer factory, rather we have an iCustomer factory interface, which will have a method called create customer, and we will be ending up creating one factory each for customer. So we'll have a discount customer factory, and we'll also have a loyal customer factory, and both of them are implementing the interface iCustomer factory. So when you go back to the client code, this is the top one is our client code. So what happens here is, when you look at the client code, so you will you will configure the type of factory that you wanted to load in either a configuration file or in a database, or you provide it through a user input. But basically, load factory method would now load that particular factory, and once the factory is loaded, you can simply write iCustomer factory. Maybe you can write iCustomer factory equals to load factory, and then based on the setting, it will load the appropriate factory and return that factory. Then you can say that factory dot create customer. So it is going to create that object. Let's look at the code, then you will understand it better. Okay, so now here I don't need to explain you about the discount customer, which is implementing iCustomer, and you also have impulse customer, which is implementing iCustomer. Okay, and then now what I did was I added an interface for the customer factory, iCustomer factory. Okay, which is having a method called create customer, and it returns objects of type iCustomer. Now let's look at discount customer factory, which is implementing iCustomer factory, and I will have create customer, and inside that I will be calling the discount customer, and inside loyal customer factory I will be calling again create customer. Here I will be creating loyal customer. And if you look at the client code, so what I did was, so I added a setting here, customer factory. Now I am giving the customer factory. Now I wanted to load the loyal customer factory. So what happens is, here I am saying iCustomer factory equals to load factory. When you look at the load factory, I am getting from the settings, I am reading the factory name, and using reflection I am creating an instance of that factory. And once I get reference to that factory over here, then I will be able to call factory dot create customer. Okay, once I say factory dot create customer, because it is of loyal customer, the call would go back to loyal customer factory create customer, and it would create a new loyal customer, and it will return the customer. So that is how it is going to work. So let me run this, and if I run it, so you will see that loyal customer object has been created. For example, if I stop this, go back and take this and go to settings and change this to, and let me build it to flush out the new configuration file with the latest setting, and if I go back and run it, then I will be able to see the discount customer. Okay, so this is how we would be creating the factory method. I hope this is clear to you. And now the last one is abstract factory. So now again we are going little deeper in factory pattern. This is one level up. Okay, so now here factory now represents a family of objects that it can create. So factories may have more than one factory method, so that's the beauty of it. If you see the simple factory or the factory method, so far we have seen only one factory method, whatever name that you give, whether it is a create instance or whatever it is, but we have only one, which can always there's only one method inside that factory class, which is returning the creating the concrete objects and instance of concrete objects and returning them to the client applications. But here now, interestingly, you can have more than one factory method. Like I said, as I mentioned, in case of a Maruti car factory, you might be having three different factory methods: one for create sports car, one for create economy car, create one for maybe I don't know, I'm short of words, yeah, some other type of the car. And if you look at the definition given by Ganga 4 from their design patterns book, abstract factory means provide an interface for creating families of related or dependent objects without specifying their concrete classes. Maybe it's a little difficult to understand by reading the sentence, but I'm sure you would understand if I show you the code. So let's look at the code. Let me close all, and then let's go to abstract factory. So now here what happened was, discount customer. Okay, now what I did was, I again wanted to discount customer is implementing iCustomer, but now again within the discount customer I wanted to further segregate them. I wanted to have a gold discount customer, I wanted to have a platinum discount customer, and a silver discount customer. So how do I do that? I created another class, gold discount customer, which is so I took discount customer as the base class, and now I wrote a new class which is extending discount customer. Okay, I implemented one for platinum customer, and I implemented one for silver discount customer. So there are three classes. And if you look at iCustomer factory, previously in factory method, if you look at the factory method iCustomer factory, we have only create customer. Okay, but now in abstract factory, if you go and see the iCustomer factory, I see what? So create gold customer, create silver customer, create platinum customer. But of course we are creating this is for all types of customers. So now what happens is, if you go and see the factory, also I added a new factory. I changed the definition of the factory, because now instead of create customer, now we have three more additional methods. So create gold customer, create silver, create platinum. So what I'm doing is, now this is implementing iCustomer factory, and I will say public so I will say, okay, public iCustomer create gold customer, and I will return new gold discount customer. And when I say public iCustomer create silver customer, I'm returning new silver discount customer. This is like returning different cars actually. Platinum discount customer. Okay, so now what happens is, same thing here also, settings, I kept it as a discount customer factory. And if you go to program, the client program.cs, which is the client code, and here what I'm doing is, and I don't need to explain this load factory to you, I'm just reading that setting, and then using reflection I'm creating an object that factory, so which is of type I customer factory, and once I get it, then I'm calling create platinum customer. When I say create platinum customer, the call is going to go back to, in our case now it goes to discount customer factory, and then it returns new platinum discount customer. Let me run this. So actually, if you look at this client code, I did call all three of them: create platinum, create gold, create silver. So that's why you got first, you got the platinum discount customer, gold discount customer, silver discount customer. So this is the beauty of it. You can, if you go back and see the slide, probably you might understand a bit now. So factory now represents a family of objects that it can create. So factories may have more than one factory method. So what is essentially we did here was we provided an interface for creating families. I'm talking about the iFactory interface, which has got multiple methods like create gold customer, create silver customer, create platinum customer. So provide an interface for creating families of related or dependent objects without specifying their concrete classes. So you are completely decoupling it by introducing more and more interfaces in the hierarchy. You are completely decoupling the dependency, which would really be helpful for you if you are doing test driven development. You can mock them, and it simplifies your development life cycle. So this is about abstract factory, and I'll give you an example. Why was I doing this all of a sudden? Why I developed some interest in this particular design pattern? So what happened was, I was working last couple of months. I was working on some old code base which was written since 2005, and then we started implementing some functionality, new functionality, and started fixing some bugs in it. Then I see a lot of places they have used a factory pattern. Then I got a doubt, and then I went ahead and I looked at I came here and I selected .NET. I went to object browser, and I just typed factory here. So again I'm typing it. I just typed factory here. You see what there are. Microsoft .NET framework is using factory pattern immensely. The most famous example for you is, many of you are watching this video might have had hands-on experience using the system.data.common DB provider factory. You might have used system.data.odbc.odbc factory, or system.data.oledb.oledb factory, and maybe the Oracle client or SQL client. You might have used all this. So such is the importance of factory pattern, and it gives immense flexibility in terms of the architecture with respect to creation of objects within your project is concerned. Okay, so that's about the one example. And just as a quick recap, we looked at three different types of patterns: simple factory pattern, and factory method, and abstract factory. Okay, I slowly increased the complexity and started from simple factory and showed you the abstract factory. So in a nutshell, when you look back the last half an hour, whatever you learned, the factory design patterns, by using them we create objects without exposing the creation logic to the client. The client always refers to the newly created object using a common interface. And another advantage, this is really interesting, one more advantage is that if the object creation code is spread in entire application, and for some reason the business requirements demanded you that you should change the process of the object creation, then what happens is you don't need to scan through all the files and then change the way you are creating that object. You don't need to go to each and every place and to make the required changes. You just need to go to the respective class factory and make the change. If I elaborate it a bit, for example, maybe you're creating customer equals to new customer. Now that you decided that you should not use default constructor and you should use a constructor with a set of parameters, then if that is mandatory, then what happens is you will have to scan through all the files and then make changes everywhere, and then only then only you will be able to complete that particular set of modifications. But in this case, if you implement factory pattern, you just need to go back to the concerned factory class and then go and make the required changes. Okay, and the other benefit that we looked at is we could able to add new classes and functionality without breaking the open closing principle, either with the help of factory produced objects or factories themselves. And then we already seen how to store which objects to create outside the program, for example database or configuration files. Okay, and I hope I did a decent job in explaining you the factory pattern. And if you have any further question, you can always feel free to write to kishorebora@gmail.com. Thank you.